Hello, this is Luke here. I'm just doing a very quick bonus podcast episode to recommend some books about music.
Welcome. We are Neil,
Luke and Dave.
340-somethings reminiscing on the runners and riders of 90s guitar music.
We look at the bands who soundtracked our youth on both sides of the pond and interview some of our heroes from the bands that defined a generation.
You'll hear about the good, the bad and the ugly of 90s guitar music.
This podcast is Stupid and Contagious.
A little while ago on the Facebook page, Marcus O'Riordan put up a post about Jarvis Cocker's Good Pop, Bad Pop book. My copy just arrived in the post a couple of days ago, so thanks for the recommendation there, Marcus. So I thought I'd do just a quick mini bonus episode of the podcast just to recommend some books about music that I like. I'm a big reader of music biographies and things like that, so I thought I'd share some of the books that I've liked over the years. They're not all 90s, I'm afraid, but yeah, just some books which I think are worth reading if you're interested in music and you like reading about it as much as you like listening to it, like I do. Okay, so the first book I'm going to recommend is Julian Cope's Jap Rock Sampler. You might know his Krautrock sampler that he wrote about German music, Kraftwerk and Can and all of that. And this is kind of the follow-up to it, Jap Rock Sampler, talking about basically Japanese music of the 60s and 70s mainly. So he goes into like the 60s group sound stuff, which was like the Japanese equivalent of like I guess like 60s pop and rock music, like like the Beatles and all of that, like the Japanese version of that. He goes into that in detail. Then he gets on to the kind of the psychedelic stuff and the proto-metal stuff. So bands like Speed, Glue and Shinky, really cool kind of blues rock band that talked about drugs basically. And Flower Traveling Band, maybe a lot of people know their Satori album is just incredible. Early 70s kind of hard rock, kind of almost sounds like Black Sabbath kind of sound going on. Really, really good. And my personal favorite, Les Rallies de Nudes, Haraka Norari's really kind of intense underground drone psychedelic band from the 60s and the 70s, and he writes about them with passion and in he's really detailed research as well. So if you're into kind of underground music from different places around the world, then I highly recommend Julian Cope's Jap Rock Sampler. Next, I'm going to recommend this book, Uproot by Jace Clayton, who also is known as DJ Rupture. So I'm a big fan of his music, DJ Rupture. And this is a really, really interesting book. So the subtitle is Travels in 21st Music and Digital Culture. So basically it's kind of spans the globe, and he talks about how music in the 21st century basically is distributed around the world. So he spends a lot of time talking about, like, especially in like North Africa, where music is not only shared by friends but like bought and sold by Bluetoothing 100 MP3s into a mobile phone, not even a smartphone, like a mobile phone, and how that counts as buying music. So you go to the market, you'll pay whatever it is, whatever the currency in whatever country you're in, Morocco or whatever, and you'll pay the guy, and he'll Bluetooth 20 tracks of the latest whatever into your phone for you. And it's just a really, really kind of interesting look at what's going on around the world, in terms of how basically people consume music, how they make music. And he's just a really great writer as well. So yeah, this is Uproot by Jace Clayton, DJ Rupture. Really, really good book. Next, I'm going to recommend this one. It's called Monolithic Undertow by Harry Sword. If you know Harry Sword, he's a he's a bit of a character, and he's this book. It basically goes from the dawn of time. It goes from the Neolithic beginnings to now, and it's basically it's called In Search of Sonic Oblivion. So it's about the drone sound. So it's just like a really wide-ranging book that travels all throughout time and every continent, basically, from, as I said, from Neolithic times to Sufi mystics, onto free jazz and Ashrar Temple, onto modern bands that I really like Sun and Electric Wizard. Anywhere where this kind of drone sound makes an appearance, he basically writes about it. So it's just this really wide-ranging, absolutely fascinating book about the sound of the drone. So there we go, Monolithic Undertow by Harry Sword. Really good. Next, let's get onto the 90s. So this book came out this year, I think. So it's by Simon Williams, and he's basically the founder of Fierce Panda Records. So the book's called Pandemonium: How Not to Run a Record Company, and it's really, really good. It's a kind of unflinchingly honest book. It takes in his own personal life as well, and his mental health issues and problems with suicidal thinking, but also he talks a lot about the early days of Fierce Panda and how he kind of started it in order to document what was going on with the new wave of the new wave, Smash and these Animal Man. So all of these bands that are really close to my heart, and just talked about how he kind of built the label and how he managed to find all of these like amazing bands before anyone else, famously Coldplay, Embrace, the list is almost endless, to be honest, and all the kind of the bands that appeared on here. And I think like a lot of the bands that have been on the podcast so far as well also feature in here. And it's just a really good, honest, kind of self-deprecating telling of what it was like to run an underground label in the 90s and 2000s in the UK. It's called Pandemonium by Simon Williams, and highly recommended. Really good. Next, I'm going to recommend this one. It's called Girls to the Front by Sarah Marcus, and it's basically the story of Riot Girl. So I'm sure I've mentioned on the podcast many times, I'm a big fan of Riot Girl. I really like Sarah Marcus's book because she puts kind of equal importance on the political and also the kind of like the social support network that was Riot Girl, as much as the music. So I think a lot of people see it as just this kind of musical genre, but it was much more than that. It was a support group for for young women. It started off with literally like half a dozen teenage girls sitting around talking about sexual abuse, date rape, these really kind of serious things that they weren't able to talk about in any other kind of setting, and how kind of it grew out of that and led to activism and music and everything like that. And it's a really good kind of honest portrayal of that time. So if you're interested in Riot Girl, it's a really good account of it. So Girls to the Front. Okay, and the final one I'm going to recommend, I guess it's probably my favorite book about music ever, and it's this one. It's the Sleeve Notes book by Joe Thompson. So if you don't know the Sleeve Notes series, it's basically a musician chooses tracks from their own kind of back catalogue and uses those tracks to kind of tell a story, basically. So that's exactly what Joe does. Joe Thompson is the bass player in Hey Colossus. If you don't know Hey Colossus, they're pretty much the UK's best band, kind of noise guitar rock band. They've been going 20 years this year. They released their 14th album a few months ago, and they're pretty much my favourite current band, and they have been for a very long time. Joe Thompson is a postman and bass player, and it's just, for me, it's just one of the most kind of honest, kind of down-to-earth portrayals of what it means to be in an underground band right now. So he comes from a place of, not worrying about commercial success, but just having the passion of just having that creativity inside you and wanting to kind of make and create and contribute to the community of underground music. And it just really, really comes across. It's a really kind of heartfelt message of what it's like to be in a non-commercial underground band at the moment. If you don't know him, he is also the founder and owner of, for my money, the UK's best independent record label, which is Wrong Speed Records. I've got some examples of some recent Wrong Speed releases behind me. Jelly Skin, Colossal Squid, Gum Takes Tooth, all really, really good. And for me, the best label going. So that's probably my number one recommendation if you're into the spirit of independence when it comes to music. So there are my recommendations, but I'm not done yet. I'm going to give one more extra mini bonus recommendation. It's not really a biography or anything like that, but it's a book by Ian Svenonius called Supernatural Strategies for Making a Rock and Roll Group. And it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of advice, a book of advice on how to be a successful rock and roll band. It's really funny, but also, littered with truth. If you don't know Ian Svenonius, he's one of my favorite people in music. So he started off with Nation of Ulysses in the 80s, or a Discord band from Washington, D.C. In the 90s, he was in The Makeup, one of just like amazing live band, especially kind of this gospel, soul, rock and roll thing they had going on. And nowadays he does lots of other different interesting projects as well. And he's just one of the coolest people in music. And he writes a lot of like cultural essays and things like that. And I just really like his writing. I really like his take on things. And this is a really kind of funny, tongue-in-cheek kind of guide to how to become a successful rock and roll group. So that's my extra bonus recommendation for books. Okay, there you go. That's the end of this mini bonus New Year end of year podcast from me. All right, thanks for listening or watching. See you in a minute.